I used to make a frequent sort of assessment of a steel about how hard or easy it was to sharpen. And I think as I've gotten older and sharpened more and I guess got the right sharpening gear, I think most steels are at least just normal to sharpen, with some being quite easy, some of the softer, sort of more basic steels being quite easy. But really, if I was to reassess everything I've ever said about steel, I'd say a lot of the steels that were up here, I just didn't have the right kit to sharpen them properly. It's true that sharpening Magnamax on a series of Japanese waterstones is going to be quite difficult because they just don't cut the steel quick enough. So you've got like a greater margin for error, a greater margin to accidentally slip forward. Since I've got things like CBN plates and KME systems and work sharps and things like that actually have the abrasives that are designed to cut higher end, harder steels, I think mostly it's about once your sharpening technique is okay, most sharpening is going to be okay. So in this video, I'm going to talk briefly about sharpening this new Magnamax steel, but that's basically the lens we're looking at it through. Just some different ways you might want to sharpen it that you'll have pretty okay success. Anyway, please enjoy this pre-packaged piece of short form content that I made for my Instagram channel that also applies to sharpening this guy with a Spyderco CBN plate. Ta-da! Great, hey? So yeah, absolutely put a edge on this, which I feel is about matching what the factory was. When I'm looking at it, when I'm eyeballing it, I reckon I've maybe possibly lowered the angle, raised the angle just a tad. So maybe if it was 17 degrees, maybe it's 18 degrees now. Just in my, in my eagerness to have that edge actually passing over the, the actual apex passing over the diamond stone. Always a bit trickier when you're freehanding. So what I'll do though, is I will do an edge test now on my edge, and then I might even sharpen it on a different system again and see how that goes. Maybe we'll see how it goes on the work sharp abrasives. Maybe these aren't diamond belts, so we'll see how these do perhaps. I mean, these are still effectively what Spyderco would be using at the factory to sharpen. They'd just be using, sanding belts, like big belt sanding, apparatuses. So yeah, well, we'll do that afterwards as well. But yeah, let's do an edge test on my edge. I wouldn't be expecting this to do as well as Spyderco's edge, which I think cut 1,300 times in the last video. You can check that one out in the links below or in a card that's probably coming up here right now. But let's see how good I can do with my free hands, shall we? Alrighty, so at about the 950 mark, I won't lie, it started to feel like it was really struggling with the rope, just on the part that I was cutting with. So, I mean, I pushed it on to 1,000 just to keep it neat, I suppose. You know, I'm a guy, I'm not a machine. You know, I like things nice and neat sometimes. So 1,000 cuts with my edge, obviously less than the factory Spyderco edge, which was probably done to a slightly higher angle, more professionally done than my edges, which I literally did in 10 minutes on a single double-sided diamond stone. And again, the more of these videos that I do, I mean, there's some messaging about steels, but I really think there's about 3 or 4 different categories of steel edge retention, like really low, medium, high, and then very high. I would say this one's definitely sitting in this part here, with like very high obviously being Rex 121. This guy's definitely sitting somewhere here in this invisible scale that I'm miming in front of the camera right now. But yeah, a lot of it just comes down to what sort of edge that you put on your blade as well. So this would be, I would guess, 18 to 19 degrees at the apex, just from my fairly rudimentary freehanding, but still holding a great edge. That's a lot of cuts of rope, and it's still obviously extremely usable and sharp knife. I mean, it does catch on the paper, which is when I stopped the test. But honestly, you'd be lying if you said that wasn't still a sharp knife, right? It's just my criteria for ending the test has been met. But yeah, overall, still great for, you know, not a hard sharpening job at all, which I suppose was the message of this video here. I used to think a lot of these super steels were hard to sharpen, and that was just because I wasn't particularly good at sharpening, and I'm not still the best sharpener in the world, which is why I like to think you can get some hope from my videos. But also now I've got the right gear. With a diamond or a CBN plate, which aren't super expensive, that is the right gear. This isn't even the best CBN plate, the Spyderco one. The backside of it's already lost some CBN. There was some like rough edges on it. You know, a few things about it made it not the perfect CBN plate, but it still met all of my sharpening needs really. That being said, I'm certain that with a a really honed KME fixed angle, perfect edge, this would probably do even more. I'm generally finding on this test that a lower angle, as long as the steel is tough, which a K390-esque steel should be tough, that does really do well on this test. So yeah, we are looking forward to the next batch of testing, but yeah, mainly this was more of a commentary on sharpening the stuff, rather than the statistical facts about the edge retention of it. I think you can get a good edge on most steels with most modern sharpening systems that will get you an extremely user-friendly experience for sure. So Magnamax, second test, happy with the result. Stay tuned. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to see what I can do on like a belt system, my work sharp Ken onion. I'm going to see how that goes. Putting an edge on it. So I'm going to dull this guy, quite harshly on the edge, and sharpen it on that and see how that goes really. I don't think I'll be doing an edge test again today because my arm is sore, but maybe at the start of the next video I'll edge test the edge I'm about to put on with my work sharp. So there we go, one hand continuing to wash the other in content creation. Lowest setting, of course, just one, never really go higher than that. This is a high-speed steel type, so I'm sure it can take more aggressive grinding, but always just go slower. That first belt, quite a high grit, definitely burring it really easily, knocking the burr off really easily, so we are going to go up through all the belts, so just coarse, medium, fine, and then the sort of ultra-fine stropping type belt. But yeah, really no real difference here apart from maybe a few extra seconds of time. So again, just trying to demystify sharpening. Of course, this is an expensive machine. This is not something that everyone's going to have. This is a work sharp Ken onion blade grinder. So, but yeah, overall, it's still the same sort of non-diamond abrasives that they'd sharpen with. So definitely possible. Whether it'll be a better edge long term, whether you believe in things like carbide tear out, whatever, I don't know. All we'll be doing, I'm just going to make sure this gets a nice sharp edge at the end of it. Have a look. Convex edges never feel as good going through rope though. Just that slight convex to them just makes it feel like you got to push a little bit harder. Anyway, not sure if I'll test that one next time or not, but definitely stay tuned for the next episode where I'm going to put my super nice KME edge on this guy here and give it a full-on best possible edge test. And also I've got more of this steel coming from Gary Creeley. I've got a Mako coming, so we'll be able to have some comparison points. I think it's a slightly softer, lower Rockwell hardness version of this steel on a different knife, so more data to follow. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.